Would you guys like to get started now or wait until Mark gets here?
Might as well start.
Might as well start.
Okay, I introduce myself to you. Call me Steve Harris.
Hello, Steve.
I do a lot of interviewing for them, but I'm basically a freelancer, and I'll be doing it alone today.
How come they're all called FM, the magazines?
What are they called, FM?
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, the main purpose of like an FM magazine is to show that listeners for FM, it's like sort of like Britain. They only have like 2 stations in most areas here. And some only get 1 FM station, so they devote whole magazines to schedules. You like with beat?
Yeah.
Have you been keeping track of the interviews and how many has it been so far?
I lost that. Quite a lot, yeah.
How has the response been from the Japanese press? I mean, now that you've met them directly and have had a chance to talk to them.
They're very polite.
How does this compare with, say, back home?
They're not polite.
Really?
And they're quite rude. Some are okay.
It's good and bad, you know.
Yeah.
But I mean, you're the type of stuff that sells magazines, so I'd imagine they'd be very grateful that you grant an interview.
Some of them are grateful, some of them think that because you're a star, they just want to get at you. Try and bring you down.
What are some of the worst experiences you've had, like with the press in Britain?
Just basically the ones that lie about you. You come in the interview and you go away, you write things that you haven't even said. They're the worst ones.
Like what, for example? What's it's just lies should be rectified here.
Just things that you just say to someone, say you were shouting someone to fuck off, say you tell I was telling him to fuck off in England, you can say fuck off and it's like with a pinch of salt, like, and they'd like to be swearing all through the interview and shit like that, and they were really horrible and foul mouthed.
If we do an interview like the 5 of us together, we tend to fuss about it, nothing really gets said. And people really kind of confuse it for us being obnoxious, you know, and basically we don't like the 5 of us can't talk, you know, it's very difficult for 5 people to do an interview, because we just end up laughing at each other, you know, like joking about, you know, and people confuse it for being like, say that we're obnoxious and things.
I imagine people ask all kinds of strange questions that kind of feel like, you know, they go right over your head, you don't really know what they're talking about. Do you find it hard to say express yourself or express what the band has gone through when you sit down and talk?
Well, we're the only people who know what it is. Like, we're the only 5 who've gone through it. You know, it's like we were all in the same position at one in Liverpool, and now we're all in the same position over a year later in Tokyo. You know, and then we're the only.
It is quite hard to sort of express what you've been through.
And so that's why we tend to joke and stuff when we're together. You know, because like we know what we just know each other. We've been with each other constantly for like 18 months now. And like travel the world and stuff, and we'd rather play than work. And we tell everybody that we would just rather play than work. This is kind of not this. When you join a band and stuff, this is not what you're led to believe. This is, you don't think about you're going to be shunted around the world and put in front of like 30 people a day, you know, to talk to them and stuff. You don't. You have to have your voice, you have to take it like 9 million times a day, and no one tells you what. So you're quite unprepared for all that, but it's okay. It has its moments. There are very few of them between, but it has them.
I guess that's part of paying your dues, because I mean the real biggies like the Princes, the Springsteens, the Bowies don't even give interviews anymore, except when they appear in a movie or something.
Yeah, they don't really have to do that. They've done it. They went through it earlier. You know, it's just like the more popular become, the more in demand you become, the more.
Everyone already knows all about them.
Yeah. And Prince can't talk. He's a divvy.
He can't talk.
Well, he's a bit of a divvy. Apparently, he's a bit of a retard, isn't he? He's a bit strange.
Is that right?
Someone told me he's like really, really weird. Like he doesn't really. He's not very good at putting himself over. He gets a bit weird.
That's
He's of an esoteric manner, I think. I don't think he's with us any longer.
well, I don't know. He gets a pretty sharp sound in the studio.
Yeah, he makes great records. He makes wonderful records, you know. Takes lousy photographs and makes great records. And doesn't give interviews.
On that note,
That's by the by.
so I guess you didn't have a very high opinion of him then.
I think he makes wonderful records. And he makes some of the best records of the 80s.
I think you probably the last leg of his American tour was about the time you got to America, I guess. Did you have a chance to see it?
I'd love to have seen him. But he came to England when we did an awards ceremony, and he made a total arse of himself.
How do you do that?
Well, he stood up to collect an award in a closed-off area with 2 bodyguards.
2 bodyguards, and everyone was told not to speak to him and not to even look at him, pretend he wasn't there. I mean, you couldn't see him because the guy's about this short, you know, he wants to see him, you know, little brass as well. It's just that superior thing he's got, it's really strange. I don't like it. It's not very British either. He swore he'd never come back to England and never play again because he had such a bad time there. But that's his problem, you know. He doesn't have to. He's got 20 odd million in the bank, you know. I wouldn't want to. I'd be prepared to say something else.
What was America like?
Good.
Did you like it?
Yeah, it was alright.
That's it.
You get after about 3 weeks of it, then you suddenly you stop thinking and just do it and not even think about it.
Bits of it are good, bits of it are downright bloody awful.
For example?
Texas. For example, that's a big one, big 2, the big 2.
What's wrong with Texas?
Boring. I like the big cities there.
Where did you come from?
San Francisco.
San Francisco?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a cool place, that's dead nice.
I take it you went all around then, huh?
Yeah.
Not everywhere, but we went
Basically everywhere.
long down along the bottom and up.
Were people as crazy as they say they were?
Yeah, they were.
In the audiences?
Yeah.
Yeah, they were.
What about offstage? What about offstage?
Stage we were all sleeping.
Yeah. We turn into little princes when we come off stage, we're obnoxious and we don't talk to anybody. We stay in our hotel rooms.
No, we don't. Just get drunk.
Liar, we do tabs of acid all day long.
Of course. That's part of the course. When did you two first meet? Was it after?
In San Francisco, a couple of weeks back. Through an acid journey.
When I've been asked to ask about the beginnings of the band, just briefly.
Began about 2 years ago. It's brief. Just through other little bands, there's like lots of bands of Liverpool, as you must be known. It's like everyone knows each other because it's so small. And like say, I'd know there's people in one band and say they split up and another band will split up somewhere else. Some of them might form and join another band and vice versa, whatever. And that's how basically it happened with us.
Well, the music business is like it. It's really condensed in Liverpool. There's only a couple of places where you can kind of hang out and stuff. So you're bound to meet, bump into people, you know, and that's basically what happened. Through various meetings, we just met and we came about.
Why is Liverpool
I'm not in.
Why is Liverpool that kind of a town though, with such a burgeoning music scene?
I don't know. I don't know whether it parodies itself now, because I don't know whether it breeds bands because it thinks it should breed bands, or it just breeds bands because it happens to be of a creative nature. You know, I don't know any longer, because so many bands do come out of the place. You know, more so than anywhere else. I really don't understand. I don't know, because people always say when you personally say on you get out of the country, you're from Liverpool, like the land of the Beatles, you know. It's like, do you feel any kinship with them at all and stuff. It's very strange. I don't imagine what we do. Anywhere near like nothing. We just basically all came from the same type of backgrounds, you know.
I think I posed that question to a couple of other bands from Liverpool, like when the Bunnymen and one or two others, and they said it was just like a port town where you're either doing music or doing soccer, and people are always very tense. They're very physical.
I think physical, yes, tense now. I think people that come in are tense because they can't quite get to grips with with this thick air that's there, you know. Because it's got a language all of its own for a start, you know. It's very hard to kind of infiltrate into the scene in Liverpool. You know, when you get through the veneer, it's like it's a very, very cool place, one of the most relaxed places in the world. You know? It's just that everyone pulls together in Liverpool because it is very poor, you know. It's very poor.
Is it the place you want to stay?
Yeah.
That answers that.
I want to stay.
You'd like to sit there, I wouldn't want to live there.
Why don't you?
Because I lived there for 18 years, and I think it would be nice to live somewhere else for another 18 years, and maybe somewhere else for another 18 years, and learn a lot of things, you know. I'm not a tree, you know, I'm not rooted, I don't want to be rooted, I'd rather travel, I'd rather see things. I think that's a way of broadening your horizons, definitely. It's a healthy attitude. But then again, it's also healthy. You want to stay where you're born, where your traditions lie. You know, either way, it's just that you have to choose. It's not that I don't really like the city. I've just grown a bit big for it now.
No, why would you want to stay?
Just like it more than anywhere else. We've been all around the world nearly now, and it's like there's all these great cities, but I don't know. I just don't feel comfortable anywhere else.
Maybe it's your family back there.
Well, the family's there as well, but I always seem to feel really comfortable when I'm hanging around. So, London's okay, because I hated London, and we lived there for about a year, and I thought it was okay, but I still didn't feel as comfortable in London as I did in Liverpool. I don't know why. I just like it more.
Do people look down at you or look up at you for being from Liverpool when you go to London?
People
look down at you when you go to London?
Yeah, when you're when you speak with like that sort of a dialect, the accent.
I think when you're not in a band and on top of the pops, they do. But when you become in a band, they all look at us, wherever you're from, whatever city you go to in the world. You know.
Does that offend you?
No, it doesn't offend me at all. It's just there. It just happens, you know. You find your own friends wherever you go. Whatever people that you relate to, wherever city you are in the world, you know.
Talking to a lot of people from Scotland these days, and they feel very contentious with people from like London, because they would be looked on with scorn before they started appearing on top of the pops.
A lot of people in London think it is like the centre of the universe. There's nowhere quite north of Liverpool. Everything north of Liverpool is full of dummies. I suppose that's what a New Yorker would say if you come from the Midwest. If you're from Kansas, you're a bit thick. It's just that attitude. It's just basically they're all very similar, and they don't like that. They like to have differences. It's the reason why English and French people don't get on, because basically we are very, very alike. We have the same kind of class structures, the same kind of buildings and stuff. It's very similar. Our history virtually is aligned with each other. We have monarchies and stuff. We're very, very, very alike. But I think because we've got this stretch of water between us, we feel like we have to be different. Kind of thing. I think everyone, I don't know. There's always that thing. Better than the next, whatever comes.
Familiarity breeds contempt.
Yeah.
Not getting back to starting up from
This is Mark.
Hi, Ed. Nice to meet you. Tell me about how, like, you wrote Relax. Who started it? Who came up with the first idea?
We just started jamming on, like, we wrote the music, and Holly wrote the words. But how we wrote the music was we just started, like, just jamming on this, like, bang, 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 and just started putting little bits in just to break the monotony of the song up a bit, and that's basically how we wrote it. And then Holly comes jumping in late with these words. He stuck them over the top.
Did it sound a lot different, the final product, as opposed to the original studio jam, or practice jam, I should say?
Every song always sounds different when it's finished. But yeah, it did sound different because the original one was like raw, the raw energy of the song. Like, but the finished one's like, that had all like the flash technical gear on and stuff like that. That was the real big difference.
I'm always reminded of the Bowie song Fashion right here. The Bowie has a song, what is it? Scary Monsters. I'm always reminded of that. Has that ever been mentioned?
By Relax.
Pardon me? Yeah, by Relax.
Fashion?
Yeah.
It's quite similar.
Oh, I know the bass line.
Yeah, I suppose it is in a way, yeah.
I've
never really thought of it, but now you say it.
I mean, I've had no accusations of plagiarism. I just thought maybe you've been listening to our poetry. And what about for like the other stuff? Does it evolve from jams like that?
Yeah, we write a lot of the stuff like that, by just jamming together and stuff. Or maybe one of us will come up with like a small part, a little riff sort of thing, and everybody will put their ideas.
We always see Holly out in front, so I think a lot of journalists would like to believe he's at the reins, he's in control of it. It's his game. Either that, or it's a Trevor Horn's game, or it's Paul Marley's game, or Paul Marley rather. I would imagine you feel very offended by that type of.
No, not offended. You just don't need to push yourself when you've got talent, do you?
I think we all know what we do and what we do best, and we're not really into scoring points upon each other. I think it's unhealthy within the band for a start. We're more grown up than Paul Morley. We don't need to score points. We know what we do, and we do it a hell of a lot better than him. If we switched roles, we could cope with his job, but he couldn't cope with ours at all. It's like, I don't know. We just don't feel that need to like say like we're. It's us. We haven't got our egos. Don't stretch that far.
Seems like the journalism medium that spawned him has made sort of a media star of him. It seems like the things he writes in the ads are so silly though. A little.
It gets a little bit highbrow, but it's like
highbrow.
To the journalists think it is, because journalists never really credit people down there with any nonce. They think they are the great teachers, they're teaching people, and Morley is like the perfect person that he thinks everyone should read books and stuff, everyone should know this, you should know that, you should be able to recite Kant, you should be able to recite this, That's his thing, that's what he's into, It's a load of bullcrap to somebody else, A soccer player's not interested in that. All he wants to do is, he needs to know is how to kick a ball,
The fact that a lot of people have gone on to him as well is because he can write such stupid things in adverts and get away with it. That's one of the main reasons.
I think the reason that other journalists like him, though, is because he's done more, he happens to have covered more papers than anybody else. He's got more jobs than anybody else,
And he knows a lot of journalists.
He's actually quite a foul-mouthed little brat.
We seem to kind of take what he does with a very large grain of salt.
He's a large grain.
So hello.
Yeah, but I mean, he tries to run circles around people and alienate them, which is kind of a bit silly.
He seems like that he's done anything but alienate depressed. He's got
Yeah,
everybody.
but it's only the press who appreciate it because they're the only ones who can understand the damn words, you know. The kids aren't interested in that. All they would like is the photograph of Mark or Peg or myself or Holly and that's it. And the records, that's all they're interested in. And the packaging is another thing altogether, you know. That only really impresses journalists, you know, or people who are impressed by that, who are interested in that side of the whole game, you know. But the people that buy your records buy it because they like the bass drum, they like your face on the cover, you know.
What about Trevor Horn? I mean, I suppose it's silly to ask you how you would evaluate your own producer because, you know, it was the first record and everything. There's nothing to compare him to, but what about Trevor Horn? I mean, did you still use him?
Yeah, it's still using him. He's the best producer in the world, I think anyway. And
The chemistry is definitely good, isn't it?
yeah, it's a good working relationship between us and him as well.
How do you do things in the studio? Does he come up with a lot of ideas, or does he kind of get the stuff out of you and get you to?
Well, that's what he does most of the time. He gets stuff out. Not just us, he gets stuff off like the engineer and stuff. He gets stuff off everybody.
That's his way of working.
And he works on your ideas, and he's good at that.
He's a great interpreter, basically, you know.
Do you understand what he's doing when you're in the studio? I mean, he must be like a real wizard. He comes up with
Just sit
stuff.
there,
actually.
actually, smokes through.
He doesn't he doesn't know how to work a fairlight or a desk and anything.
He just knows that he's got a great ear.
He
just
knows
likes
how
great
to
sounds.
smoke weed.
You know, it's like he'll sit and listen to a drum sound for like a day. You know, to come up with a great sound.
I say when we first started going in the studio, we were dead worried, because we'd never even seen a mixing desk as big as that. And as soon as we realised that he didn't know how to work it, we got loads of confidence in ourselves then, which was great.
What did you think? What did you think of the Art of Noise album?
It's good for what it is.
What is it?
It's just a place. It's just a massive noise. It's good for noise. You know what I mean? But it's not a band or anything like that. You couldn't really call it a band.
Some of the tracks are quite good, like Moments and Low Spirits.
Yeah.
And first one, Beatbox, I thought was good. But it's just that I think after a while it's like I just think. Imagine if you're locked in a room with that playing, it's just be like, it would be after 3 hours of that, I'd just for God's sake, what this, you know.
Well, some people have likened it to a catalogue of studio effects, so I guess it's sort of like reading a dictionary.
It's how many sounds can you get from a synclavier and make them sound interesting together, you know.
Why were so many different versions of the singles released? I mean, why all the different 12 inches and... how many versions of Relax are there?
There are eight versions of Relax and about 7 of Twin Star. It was we mixed the song and it'd be it would be great if we could put that a bit higher in the mix. So we'd mix it again and release another version.
They're basically all afterthoughts, aren't they?
Yeah.
Mixes of you wish you'd done something with that.
Before, I'm sure a lot of other bands have thought that, but haven't had the bottle to release 8 mixes of the same song.
Do you think it's a process that you'll stick with?
Not really.
Or is it just a stage that you've already passed?
Yeah, maybe, I don't know. We'll have to see when we record the new stuff, you know.
I don't know. Maybe one day you get the perfect mix and you won't have to do it.
What about the new stuff? I mean, I would imagine you've got a lot of material down.
Yeah, we got quite a bit.
Yeah.
Which you're doing on stage.
No, not doing any new stuff on stage. We're waiting until we've got something to sell, basically. So we don't want to start playing all this new songs and stuff, and then people will be bored of them by the time we release the records. You know?
But it'd also be silly of us to determine the way they're going to sound live when we haven't really experimented with them in the studio.
The songs evolved from the 5 of you. Who would be the first person to review them? Will Trevor Horn be the first guy to get his hands on them and start giving you ideas? Or are you thinking about somebody else? Is there a secret 6th person involved?
No, there's not ever any secret 6th person. It's the producer is a producer like, I don't know, like.
I think if anything, we censor ourselves. It's like we decide what we think's good and what we think's crap, and we take it to Trevor and we say we like this. These are the songs. When you're in the studio, it's like another thing. It's like when you get them down, then you review the situation again. It's like, well, this is great, this is great, this is brilliant, but this one isn't so good. You know, we could work on it for another week or so and see what we can do with it, or maybe we should just forget it kind of thing. And it's basically us that censor ourselves. You know?
When it came time to making the actual album, were there any major bones of contention between you and, say, the production staff, i.e. Trevor Horn, i.e. Paul Morley?
Well, Paul Morley isn't anything to do with the record.
Well, I would imagine he scans and stuff and says, I can't.
No, he doesn't.
No, he just
there's no say.
He has nothing no say in
well, he can
the way it
just
sounds. Right? His job is basically A&R man, come PR man, A&R come PR, you know.
Decade, I know that.
If there's anybody who we'd listen to, really, it would be Trevor or the engineer Steve. They're like the two people that we'd listen to.
Steve who?
Steve Lipson.
Steve Lipson.
They're the two people that we'd listen to if they had anything to say about the songs.
There've been a lot of other bands handled the same way you've been handled as of late. In other words, treated as like phenomena. Like one is like Madonna right now. She's getting the same sort of media overkill that you guys went through. What do you think, first of all, of Madonna?
And try not to think about it.
I don't really like her. I think she's not very good. No, I don't think she's very good. To take her album is shittiest album I've heard for a while.
Was it right?
Well,
just the songs that I always produced, or
production's bad as well. I think on the song. The songs aren't that hot, but it's like every song has got like the same type of bass sound on it. It's got the same everything. Like, you know, there's no variety in the sounds or the songs. It's every bass line, bum 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 bum. You know, it just gets boring after a while. I mean, I admire her for getting where she is, for what she is. You know what I mean?
How about the Springsteen phenomenon? What do you think of that?
He's worked at it though, and he's been around for such a long time, and he can deliver it. He's written a lot of good songs. He's definitely a true musician.
I still can't understand how he just sells like 5 nights at Wembley Arena, Wembley Stadium. I just don't know how he does it. 10 Madison Square Garden. So I can't understand why that many people want to see one man. It's heavy on the head.
Whose idea was it to do Born to Run?
It was somebody suggested it to us, and we just thought, yeah, it would be good, but we wanted to do it a little bit faster and a little bit more rock and roll type. So more of a raw version of it, really.
It was raw, but I'm sure you got made a lot of enemies of Bruce Springsteen fans who thought you were treading on sacred turf there.
Well, can we give him some bloody watching? We give him some publishing money. Put it down.
Not that he needs it, like.
I mean, he certainly doesn't need it, but like, I'm sure he doesn't mind.
It's more of a tribute than like a piss take or anything.
It's not meant to be harmful. You know, so we like this song literally more than them, because we actually got up and performed it and done it. You know,
has anybody got any beers and time?
Just got some tea on the way.
Some beers in the fridge, I
think. A lot of these people have these established images, like, no thanks, I'm fine. Like, Bruce Springsteen, the friend of the working man, the spokesman for the working man, Madonna, cocktease,
friend of every man.
Cocksucker.
Madonna, friend of every man.
You guys seem to remain sort of a mystery still, although, all the publicity there's still just a very vague image of what the band is all about.
I think that's the way
That's
we'd like it to
good.
be.
Well,
That's good.
The thing is, though, it tends to be distorted. I mean, you're sometimes depicted as a bunch of raving homosexuals, which, is absurd. I would imagine there are other things as well. Doesn't it worry you how you're being treated, though?
No, because I think the people who like us know what we're really like. They know that we're not a bunch of raving homosexuals or whatever, or a bunch of mad asses that like.
And most of it, we're not a bunch of bullshitters, we just tell it like it is, and that's basically where it all lies, and that's what impress people, because we just basically tells it like it is. No crap,
The object to so much criticism, though, I remember Boy George was saying how you tried to pick a fight with him or something one time in the studio.
No, what it was, he'd been slagging us off in the press and stuff.
Yeah.
And we were like sort of new to it. We thought, oh fuck him, who does he think he is? And we just phoned him up and just giving general abuse down the phone. We didn't try to pick a fight. He phoned like 7 bodyguards to get onto me, Ted and Nasha. And by the time we left our studio, it phoned 7 bodyguards for us. And they were all from the same fucking company, and they all knew each other, But we'd left by then, and it was a stupid thing to do, because, you'd never attack anybody for saying something to you. You can just give them back.
He's just a paranoid Dizzy Queen, he really is. He's just really paranoid.
Well, I think he didn't do you justice, because what he was saying, was that you were trying to make something evil of sexuality, evil of homosexuality.
Only a lesbian would say something like that. No, it's like I think that's really wrong. How can he stand there when there's many people that shoot him down because he wears dresses and makeup and stuff, Like they'd have us round to tea before they'd have him round to tea because we didn't upset the neighbours, I don't know. It's like talk about calling the pot black, I just think it's all bullshit. I just think it's all bullshit, we're not really interested in arguing and scoring points. It's like, we're just doing it and we're having to do it out there, having a great time. If he wants to slag us down, let him go to it, But I've met him when he turned around, he's also said to me, he just does it for a laugh, he doesn't really mean it. It's like, he thinks it's great slagging people down the paper, that he slags Madeline down all the time, and all this crap. But that's what he's into, It's like, it's okay, leave him to it, it's like, the world's big enough for us all.
Just about.
Pardon me?
Just about.
Well, he needs to shed a couple of pounds.
What sort of bands do you consider on the same? Well, what bands do you see as your comrades or contemporaries?
Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd,
of course, yeah.
Springsteen,
Duran, I suppose.
No, they're much bigger than us. But we're babies. We're just babies. We haven't had it like that. We haven't had a long time, has it?
We still got to prove a lot, really.
We're kind of past a lot of people, but then we're kind of stuck there because we haven't got time on our side. We haven't got a great history just yet. So maybe we'll get bigger in another year's time if we'll step up another thing.
One last thing I should get straightened out is, what will you be doing when you go back to Britain? Will there be any production, work in the studio, working on new songs?
So what we're doing when we finish here, we're going to France to write more material, and then we're going to record the album in October, November.
For release?
August, October, November, and maybe February, early next year.
And you have absolutely no idea what it'll be like. It's just all left.
Well, we have got an idea of what it's going to be like, but you don't know till all the songs are finished. And we've got a lot of songs, but you can't say, oh yeah, the album's going to be really heavy, or it's going. There are some heavy tracks, like guitar orientated tracks and stuff like that, and there's some like couple of little soft pop tunes, you know, Koto ones. Yeah.
Any more cover versions, like a Born to Run?
No, not going to do any more covers.
Great.
Maybe the album after. Just
Unless one
for the
grabs
plan.
us,
Yeah, unless one.
like basically really grabs us and we think, God, it'd be great to do it.
Would it be possible you do any of your old songs, a new version of an old song?
You cover version of your life.
Exactly.
I'd like to
Yeah,
do a
version
version
of
of
Relax
live. I'd like to do a classical version and do that.
That'd be good.
Of course. All right, gentlemen, thank you very much. Sorry to take up so much time.
I don't have to nod to you, do you?
Also, he wants to get pictures out here, I guess, if you guys are willing.
Got any more?
So it's going to
It's way too late to wait for the back, innit? Go just pull.
From?
He the interviewer, Mr. Nasi.
Nice to meet you.
Hello, nice to meet you.
Interpreter.
Mark.
Second.
You speak English?
Let me speak a little bit.かなり疲れてる。あ、本当？うん。だから、なるべく役を省いた方が。じゃあ、ポンポン行きましょう。In America and here. I was a major back in university.
Oh, really?
Back in America, yeah. I've been here for quite a while as well.
It's a weird thing to do, man.
It's
amazing.
I've been here for 4.5 years.
Shane, man, yesterday.
Just like it.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice, although I'm not quite used to this kind of city life. But you get used to it after a while.
The three dogs. Three dogs in the middle of the
いや、まあみんなこうまとめて撮ったやつ
確かにやりながら途中に出なかったよ
いや、いいんだよ。最初の10分はいいんだよ。じゃあ、早速行きましょう。
He said she'll try to get this finished as quickly as possible, just in order to get out of here.
昨日僕は実はホリーにインタビューやってまして、で、その時彼のその音楽的なルーツみたいなものを聞いたんですけども、そしたらファンタデリックとかね、パーラメントというそういうすごく黒っぽいっていうか、もろブラックミュージックが上がってきたんだけども、あなた方一人ずつのその個人的な音楽のルーツっていうのは、それをこう一人ずつ最初に名前を言ってですね、それで、言ってほしいんですが。
Yesterday he actually interviewed Holly, and he kind of liked to hit you with the same question that he hit Holly with, beginning with, that is, what are your musical roots? And Holly mentioned stuff like Parliament, Funkadelic, that sort of very soulful type of thing. He'd like you first of all to give your name, and then what your roots are. The reason he wants to give your name is because a different person will be translating this.
Oh, yeah.
I'm cool and I've got blonde.
My name's Peter and I don't dye my hair, so I've got no roots.
My roots are country Kingston.
Ooh. Unforgivable. Unforgivable.
My name's Mark.
Unforgivable, why is it unforgivable?
It's just a bad joke.
And I like, I don't know, I haven't really got like any particular band that I listened to when I was young or anything. It was just like stuff that my older brothers listened to, stuff like that. But I don't know whether they influenced me or not.
Well, the thing that, how old are you guys?
21.
21?
21, he's 25.
So, he's 25, so you must be listening to a lot of Motown, glam rock.
Yeah, Bowie and Roxy, I grew up with all that stuff.
Yeah, it seems to be pretty much the same thing for people, I should say our age and like the same age. So, Motown, glam rock, that kind of stuff.
Glam, I like glam rock. People like Slade and Sweet, and Gary Glitter and all that stuff. But I don't know whether it's influenced me or not. It's hard to say what influenced you, because I didn't sit down and say like, oh, I'd love to sound like them or anything like that. It was just basically music that my older brothers listened to, and that was basically like Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, AC/DC and stuff.
Any bearable?
Which is a bit weird. So.
Headbang.
Yeah, I love that.
And you didn't care to deal with your roots there.
What band did you listen to?
To set all the 70s big rock groups, Rolling Stones, Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin.
Stadium back, yeah.
Pardon?
Stadium rock.
Yeah, the huge bands, they're the ones who went on. They're the ones that made me want to play in a band. Obviously they're the ones who went on.
Do you have any hero for you?
Yeah, John Bonham.
Is that right?
Yeah.
John Bonham.
And if I wanted to sound like anyone, I'd play it like anyone, it'd be him. So therefore. He's brown bread, like.
年代的にもポールなんか特にボーイ・ジョージなんかと近いんじゃないかと思うんですが、彼のその昔の少年時代のヒーローっていうのはね、T-Rex マーク・ボランだったっていうことを言ってたんだけど、それと音楽的なそういうルーツとかね、好きなミュージックっていうのを別にして、その、なんていうのかな、自分のヒーローみたいなものいましたか？
Sorry for the comparison, Paul, but he says you're about the same age as Boy George, who mentions Mark Bolan as one of his heroes. You already gave who your hero was. Did you guys have similar sort of heroes that you can idolize?
Yeah, Mark Bolan definitely. Then again, it's what you were saying, people of that kind of age were in. He was like at the forefront of that, the whole thing, you know. He was like the best at it, he always will be.
One thing that's always escaped me was why British guys my age all were in love with T-Rex, but back in the States, it didn't sell at all. We didn't even know about it.
Yeah.
I didn't know who Mark Bolan was until several years ago. Why do you think it appealed so much to you?
It's very English music scene in America then. Completely different scene altogether, I suppose. I mean, I don't really know, but that's my guess.
Yeah.
You know. Really. Was it?
Well,
what was going on there?
Yeah.
Was it?
Yeah, well, we were listening like to Al Green, to America and Neil Young.
Classics, Neil Young.
You know, stuff like T-Rex just didn't quite go over. Right, getting off track here.
What was this? He's having a little conversation.
Yeah,
じゃあ次はちょっとトレバー・ホーンのこと聞きたいんだけど、彼がね、昔タッチしたそのラジオスターの悲劇っていうの、ビデオ級ザラジオスターっていうの、あれとそれからロンリーハートとかって、そういう彼がタッチした曲そのものについてね、あなた方のその曲の個人的な評価っていうのはどうでしょう？
He wants to get your own evaluations of previous work by Trevor Horn. Sorry to bring Trevor up again. Like Video Killed the Radio Star, Owner of a Lonely Heart by Yes.
Best stuff I think he's done is the ABC stuff.
Lexicon of Love.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good. I think Dollar, does you know Dollar? Who Dollar?
Dollar?
Trevor did all Dollar stuff. I think their records are produced brilliantly.
I liked the Malcolm McLaren album, Duck Rock.
Oh, that was good as well.
That's my favourite stuff. That and others.
Stands to reason.
I don't like his own stuff. I think Video Killed the Radio Stars thing. Like Pet's favourite's actually Camera.
I am a camera.
What's that?
Yes. I am a camera. Shit. I think what was shit, so that's why we should do it.
I don't know if a Lonely Heart's good, but it's a great record.
He left his imprint on that though, unmistakable. He's all over that one.
スティーブは大体彼のポリのことやって聞いてんのね。
一生昨日言ったのね。
次はね、そのアルバムごとにもしプロデューサー変えるっていうのがその最近のミュージシャン、まあ誰でもやることなんだけども、もしもその全く制約がなくてね、それでプロデューサーの方のスケジュールとかも関係なく、それから向こうの意向も全然関係なく、もう自由にこう並んだプロデューサーの中から選べるとしたらば、どういう人を次プロデューサーにしたいと思いますか？
There are absolutely no limitations as to who you could select for a producer. You had your choice of anybody who do you think you would select?
Trevor Horn. I think guys like Trevor Horn.
Trevor Horn or Brian Eno.
Why, you know?
I just think he's great.
She's
I
got
like-
blonde hair.
He's got blonde hair.
Had blonde hair.
He's got blonde hair. Blonde and bald roots.
I'd think Patrick Cowley, but he's dead now.
Oh, the guy who's Sylvester.
Yeah, he was good.
It was quite interesting.
Huh. Yeah, that's right. He was picking up popularity in Britain there, right?
But I think Brian Eno's, most of the stuff he's done has been really good.
I don't like him.
ポールはブライアン・イーノっていうのは昔からずっと活動を注目してきたんですか？
You've always kind of followed his stuff?
Yeah. See, I understood.
Yeah, my life in the bush and ghosts.
At 5 o'clock in the morning just to get pedal. Yeah, I really
That's the only
like
thing that wakes me up, my life in the bush and ghosts at 5 o'clock.
He was played.
I used to be, I was a very big fan of Roxy music when I'd like
And I
seen
used to
every
go
tour
to
that
the Roxy
they've done
Ballet
and
nights and
They like-
yeah.
Yeah, so I always followed, like, when he left, I always followed his career as well. I think him out of all of them had the most creative. Although I think Brian Ferry's great, but it's a whole different ball game. So he agrees.
Piece of that!
It wasn't my fault, that. If some little genius just shakes it before he sticks it in the fridge.
Throw it, drink it, roll up.
じゃあ次の質問ですが、
Change to live.
We don't like it, we all hate it, we think it's one of the worst records ever.
Tell me before you
I
even
know,
actually
I
tell
like
me
this song, it's a good, song, but
It's
a bit of a
about
rip off
20
the
years
two track.
Tell him not to even ask the question, you can just tell what's going
And
on.
yes, the video does rip off as well.
The video is a rip off of the one we done and the song just doesn't look.
It's a bit late, the idea was a bit late because we'd done it before. But it's not a bad song.
But it was a hit, you know, a massive hit. It got #1 here and everywhere. Good luck to him.
Oh, Vietnam is very big right. It's very hip right now.
Yeah.
Vietnam
Use
themes.
of the Santi going on.
Yeah, what's he going to do for his next record?
To wait till there's another war.
Falcons.
手法的な
Weird seeing a Western.
It doesn't sound like you're talking Japanese. It sounds different. It sounds really different.
Oh, do you know you can't talk Japanese?
Hold on, this is getting out of balance. Andrew's gives us interview here.
どうなってるんでしょう今。
Our station did a cover of Get It On.
right.
Get It On. Get It On.
Get It On.
What did you think of that?
That version of
Yeah,
it?
the version.
It's okay.
It's like,
You tried to make it so different. I think he spoilt it slightly. You know, by putting all
Like,
those to
on the album it's like, say, one of the best songs on the album, even if that's not what he goes from.
We think ours is better. Live. We don't like the record recorded version.
Do you do a very similar version to the original?
Yeah.
A little more faithful.
Yeah.
A complete copy, in fact.
It's a total rip-off. Because
At least be honest about it.
if you change it, I think it'd ruin all the feel of the song. You know, like all those backing vocals we put in, all the high backing vocals and all changed
That's
off.
one of the best bits. The high backing vocals. It's
the best bit if it wasn't in that song.
It's a real Terry Thompson, Bernard Edwards version. You know, it's a very
chic version.
I don't know. It's very kind of. It's a very black version. You know. I think.
The one they do.
Yeah.
It's also, I think, very macho, heavy-handed.
Yeah. But some I just hate Robert Palmer. It's not the backing track. It's Robert Palmer's vocals.
Yeah,
I just don't like them. And I hate the way he phrases things. You see him on Saturday Night Live when he's done it?
No, I
It was horrible. What did he keep saying? That was really weird.
He kept on saying light fags.
Yeah.
kept on saying what?
It's a joke, it's an in-joke thing about like cigarettes in the middle of interviews.
No.
He thinks it's dead cool, like.
No, I just don't like his vocals on it. It's not the music at all, in fact. I quite like that. I quite like the backing vocals. It's just Robert Palmer's vocal. It's disgusting.
忘れないうちに聞いておこうと思ったんですが、
Wants to know what did you thought of the television program you did last night? Your performance of the people, what happened on the
We
program.
didn't see anything but our performance, so we didn't even see that because we were actually performing.
The amount of time and effort he put into like presenting it was
That's the
amazing.
little set we got was brilliant.
Doing one song.
But when we went into the big place, it seemed a bit like...
Well, we were lost in there. We didn't know what the hell was going on. We were just getting shunted around, like, told to stand here, then we'd get shunted over there, and it was like, what are we doing? And we just kept laughing. We just thought it was really
60 million people.
Plus we were really tired and it was boiling hot. I think we were the only 5 people sweating and on that. We were like dripping, everybody else looked like really cool. We were just like blaking out.
But it's good that you just put so much into it, like, because a lot of TV shows you do like in Europe and that, you just like sit there on a plain stage, you know, but they had all these like fairy lights and all this smoke and them big samurai statues and stuff. It was really good.
What did you think of the other acts on the program? Did you have a chance to see any of the other people? I was kind of interested in hearing how other people see these
I thought
It's
it
like
was ridiculous, actually.
It's like
I don't know,
when you listen to
listen.
like French music and French people start singing, you somehow can't cut it. There's something a bit strange about it. It's I don't know. It's like catalogue music. Imagine you get models and catalogue models, and it always looks cheap. It's like that. It's dead weird.
It's not
Really
music.
There's something goes amiss, and there's something like the rock and roll pretends to be rock and roll. You know, it's like I suppose it's because that's where the traditions don't lie. You know, I mean.
Oh, it'd be like
And up-tempo Japanese music, like up-tempo kozo music, like kind of, I don't know, it just doesn't seem to work. It's like,
just misses the mark.
yeah, it's like the rock and roll thing there, but we kind of played at it. The girl was going like this with the face, and it's just like pretending, you know. It's like it
was like an act.
Huh.
It was like the guy who was sitting and playing in a paddy field. He was being like Japan's answer to Springsteen. He just couldn't have it, you
It's
know.
really funny.
Looks like
Then again, Western people can't play Japanese music.
Yeah.
Japan started to do that and it didn't do it anymore.
Has this been your first contact with this sort of Japanese pop music since coming here? Did you ever hear it?
Yeah, it's like the first. Like you've heard Yellow Magic
Yellow Magic
Orchestra, but that's a completely different thing. You know. But this is the first time I've seen like a show like this.
The girls in the party dresses and...
Oh yeah, I'll have some of them. I'll have some of them. I'll have all of them.
To each his own, I suppose.
ポップ・オブ・ザ・ポップスとかで比べてどうなんだろう。
How about compare with something like Top of the Pops? How does that program compare?
Some of the Pops is like, it's just like so cheap compared to it, but it's got more of a, I don't know, it's got more excitement in it.
I
Really.
think it's because we understand it, you know, it's like we understand what we're doing. I suppose if Stomy Yamatashi was put on top of the Pops, you'd think he was on another planet as well, you know. Stomy Yamatashi bangs things.
That's on Shima.
Anton Schumann.
Yeah, it's just because it's completely different cultures, we don't understand it. Really, I think that's what it is.
Sounds like you were very disoriented on last night.
I think we still are. I mean, I don't think anyone's really got used to the time change yet, and also we're sweating like bloody pigs. I was there, you know, go back again to get a shower. I can't, but it's very weird, and the weather's like so overcast. It's so heavy, the air is so heavy, and you seem to get, I don't know, I feel that's dead easy at will almost.
Yeah, you're stoned without smoking.
Yeah, you can't seem to get off your head at will. It's dead strange.
It is hot and oppressive, that's for sure.
じゃあちょっと話題を変えてですね、 バンド内でね一番の決定権を持つのは誰なんでしょう。それともこうみんな民主的に合議制で何か物事を決めていくんでしょうか。
Who has the most say in what happens with the band? Is it completely democratic, or does one?
Really?
It's democratic.
Yeah, it's totally democratic.
Like if one of us said, "Oh, I don't want to do that," nobody else would do it because they just drop out.
Because everybody else wouldn't.
If everybody doesn't agree on something, it doesn't happen.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Isn't there a lot of like
Yeah, there's an argument before it, there's an
Yeah, we have
argument.
arguments and things, but it's quite hard to do.
It's usually if like one person, you know, it goes on a majority decision a lot of the time as well.
たださっきねほらブライノでも彼
Okay, like saying a second ago, you're saying like you like, and you dislike, how would you work out something like that? That sort of a
Like what?
that sort of a gap in like
Fight to the
preference.
death.
But that's what's good about it because I don't and he does, all the influence that he puts on the music will be like, fuck off. No, he'll just have different ideas to what I've got basically, and he'll have different ideas to what I've
Yeah, I
got
mean,
basically.
between the five of us, I think basically we cover
Basically.
every type of music, basically. I mean, we've
Basically.
Basically five different basic characters.
no, it's just
Basically
five
five
different.
It's healthy having five different.
I mean, we all like very different bands, all of us,
But that must account for a lot of conflict, though. That type of.
It makes it makes obviously that.
No, because me and him always get our own way anyway.
Yeah, they slip people fivers all the time.
パートがみんな違うんだってこと。
I mean, you kind of have discussions about what you should do then, like.
No.
It just sort of happens.
Spontaneity.
そう
Spontaneity.
誰が最終的にこれでいいよって形のゴーサインというか決定を出すんだろう。
So then, who gives the final stamp of approval on what's eventually done?
Well,
The five of us end up saying, "Oh,
Yeah.
we'll do it like this." In the end, everybody gives up.
But although we're very different, we're also very, very similar, and we usually like the same things. We usually know when something's basically healthy for us. What, like, one of his bass lines will be like, everyone will instantly like it for some reason.
Everybody always
Yeah, everyone loves his bass lines. We sit around, in fact, for hours and hours
Listening to me
his
play.
bass lines.
Of course.
I am the more.
Complete one with Gimmack.
Another inside joke.
Something wrong with fucking Mag.
They have an explanation or something. A footnote for the.
It's like you see in England, you get like these comp players in the social clubs, and they'll always have these dodgy microphones that'll go off and be going, don't think wrong with Kid Mag, he starts Get me a pint from the barrel there.
次をロックに対する自分の接し方としてどっちが近いかということを聞きたいです。
You have a guy like Mick Jagger who continues, to do basically the same thing he's always been doing for like, I don't know how many years now. He's already well over 40, right? And you have a guy like Paul Weller who decided to scrap all the hard rock and, go his own way. Well, yes, to kind of calm down. If you could identify with one of these people, who would you identify with?
What? What do you mean?
Paul Weller.
If you were to be able to identify with one of the two.
I don't
So
identify with either of them, but I admire what Paul Weller has done more than what
So you guys both admire.
Mick Jagger's
Yeah,
done.
I like the way he's moved. It's like from one to
So
another.
that's what I Mick Jagger.
Pardon me?
I had Mick Jagger.
Oh, but you wouldn't want to do the same thing for 40 years, was it? Or 20 years?
How much money Mick Jagger going to how much is Paul Weller going?
But both of them are made
And
for
you
life.
could say that you're dead fair, you don't want money, but you do.
Yeah, that was I'd rather be fucking Paul McCartney because he's got.
I don't know,
Something nice. It's
but then again, I'd rather go see the Stones.
Just to like ape
Yeah,
yourself,
sure,
parody
I'd
yourself to
rather
make
go
more
see the
cash, you know.
The thing that I think that Mick Jagger genuinely enjoys what he does, though. Don't you get that kind
I'd
of?
rather see Mick Jagger on stage than Paul Weller.
I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't mind seeing both of them. You know, I've never seen.
Paul's
them.
pretending he's fair, but really he's a fan.
I wouldn't like. I'd fall asleep if I went to see Paul Weller. Actually, I'd rather go and see the Rolling
I couldn't
Stones.
sit through a whole concert of the Rolling Stones.
No, with Mick Jagger, at least he performs and he does it well, even though he's been doing it for fucking hours.
I mean, you couldn't have picked two worst people.
I think we're kind of missing the gist of the question. I think
It's getting personal now between.
Would you like to carry on doing a show?
If you'll ever
50
pay
years old,
Paul Weller and Mick Jagger, you shouldn't know that.
to do something that kind of corresponds.
I know I'd like to change, but I hate Paul Weller.
I'd like to produce. I'd like to get into producing.
Is that right? You like working in the studio and counseling people on?
But I don't know whether it'll be any
Screw all the
good.
lights off and go on and off.
Do you think you could be a producer now?
No, I'm not good enough now. But you know, I could have a go, but it might be that good. But I'd work at it, so it will be good in the end.
And I just like it because the speakers kind of crank that up and there's loads of lights.
You're a realist.
どっちなわけみんな。
10年後の。
5年後。
5年後。Can you picture what you'll be doing in 5 years?
No?
No,
Not really. I
I
mean, we
would
could
like
be.
to either.
ホリーはスティングみたいに活躍したいって言ってましたけど。
Holly said you'd like to be doing the same kind of thing Sting does.
And the nose job.
It means he wants to know
He'd like a solo album out in 5 years' time.
and he wants to be
If he could play, he could do it. If he could play, he might be able to have a chance.
Don't think
He wants
Because the new
to be in
Sting
films,
album,
doesn't he? Yeah, we know that. We know he wants to be in films.
I don't.
like maybe he just means he wants to branch out in some way, maybe not necessarily.
No, he wants to be
He
one
wants
of the other
I'm sure it's one side.
I don't know.
If he wants to do it, let him do it, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, you know.
It'll be a comedy, won't it?
I take it you guys wouldn't be interested in that type of thing then.
Yeah, we'd be interested in it,
I would
but
never try and fucking be an actor, because I'm just like...
no, we wouldn't. You wouldn't try and be an actor, but like,
Well, overstepping your mark, I think.
yeah, it's a bit like
This
overstepping
stage,
your mark,
in
saying
your
I'd like to
career
do
is
it.
like, it is definitely overstepping your mark.
All the musicians want to be actors, and all the actors want to be musicians. Fuck knows why.
How is that birthday? I'm gonna go and Sting. No,
Yeah.
like Sting.
It's stink.
So in effect, you can't picture yourselves in 5 years then. Once
We
you-
can't even act in videos, never mind. Fucking
No, it's too. I think it's too cheeky.
It's really silly to be that. I mean,
It's too cheeky to say something like that, I think. Like to say, I mean, I said I liked producing it. If I said, oh yeah, I'll be as good as fucking whoever it is in 5 years, you know, you'd laugh at
it's also
yourself.
dividing your loyalty as well and your priorities as well to consider doing other things outside the band when we should be, if anything, everyone should work.
Like Sting in 5 years, it's ridiculous. I'd never say that.
But I think Stings.
I'd be like David Bowie in 5 years.
We'd like to be as rich as Sting.
We all would.
That's much more real.
Well, you guys must have made all kinds of cash by now. These record sales like hotcakes.
Got about
Yeah.
a couple of years, yeah.
Yeah, a couple of years.
Yeah, but you shouldn't just stop just because you got a bit of cash in the bank. It's not all about that, really.
It's silly to talk in terms of money as well, like, you know, that's basically a bonus. It's a bonus, you know, the money. If we all had steady jobs, we'd still mostly be rehearsing to be in a band, and if one day become successful, like 10 years later, we'd still be doing it. You know, it's kind of it's a hobby. It's almost it's inbred. Something that you have to do. Some people get the break and make it. Other people like what they're doing. But I mean, you shouldn't really talk to him.
Tell us about talking.
Yes. What's the strongest currency? We shouldn't really talk in the strongest currency at the moment. Deng, yeah, everything's deng to us.
Here's what to you?
Deng. Because we change money so often when we go to different
Oh,
countries. You just call it all deng.
How much deng did you got?
終わりですどうなの ?5 年後は何だって。
全く
よくわかんない。
できない。
それは何 ?5 年後は不安だってことなんですか
Do you think you'd like uneasy about what you may be doing in like 5 years then? Is that possible?
No, not really. We're not uneasy at all what we've been doing, but I think it's stupid.
We're uneasy about what we're doing.
I mean, it's okay prospecting on what you could be doing. Like, I don't know. I don't think I still think we'll be around in 5 years.
Oh, really? You will have all gone your separate ways? Or?
Always 5 solo albums being in June 2.
June 10th, 6th,
No,
9th.
I think there's a strong possibility that we'll still be around in 5 years together.
It would be nice for us to be together for that long. So I know it's saying like today.
It seems that bands are getting a lot better at conducting their business affairs and staying healthy and stuff, so I think bands stay together longer now anyway, especially the successful ones.
じゃあちょっとまた変えてですね、あなた方がそれぞれ現在のイギリスのロックシーンでね、その音楽的には別に興味はないけれども、インタビューとかの発言を読んだりして、その時にとうなずいてしまったりするような、キャラクター的にシンパシーを抱くような人というのはいますか？
Are there any people involved in music in Britain now who you can kind of identify with or feel an affinity for? Not really.
No.
Not a soul.
No,
そうじゃなきゃインタビューでこいつがものすごく面白いこと言ってておかしいとかね。
Or how about like say you read somebody's interview and you said something quite brilliant or very funny or.
I read. Well, I got told about somebody asked me when I was in America, what did I think about nuclear war and stuff, and I said something, and the fellow who I was talking to had interviewed Roger Waters, and Roger Waters said, well, there's a piece of potential charcoal I'm a bit worried about. And I'd like to have said that.
Huh. Good comment. Anything else like either of you have noticed that? Or you don't keep pace with that kind of stuff? Don't read the music journals much?
Yeah, I do, but there's nothing that I would like to share that's from us.
I think everyone basically, when people are in bands, they usually have the same basic attitude, just that some are a bit more fluent with it than others, and some people can say this, but I think basically everyone means the same thing. Like, you often find that big bands in England all have like a leftist stand, you know, basically because they all come from working class backgrounds and a lot of them do. You know what I mean, whether you talk about it or whether you don't, some people do and some people don't. I think we all speak for one another in a way.
Is that the end of that, sir? Can we go? And
バンドとしての共通点としてはホリーはね、ディーボーとうちはすごく似た形態を持つということを言ってたんですが、どうですか？
In the sage words of Holly there, he said that Devo.
wear Johnny's on their heads and show them.
We are Devo. He said they have a system, a setup that's somewhat similar to your own. This is what Holly said. What do you
Never
think?
fucking just in a Johnny. Never fucking.
What did he mean by it?
具体的にどういうこと言ったの？
Explain any further.
彼が。
ポップバンドとしての そのね、僕はだから聞いたわけ。そういうディーボに似てるんだったらみんな没個性的だけどそうなんですかっつったら、いや、そういう没個性的ではないけれども、みんなそれぞれ個性が強いんだけども、バンドとしてそう表に出る出方がね、ポップミュージックって言った時にの出方が似てると。
出方ってどういう
パブレスティとか、あるいはそのポップバンドとしてのまとまり方とかね。
その大衆との接し方。
そうだと思う。俺もよくわかんないけど。
I guess he didn't have it really explained in detail, so he's not really sure what Holly meant either. But I think what he had in mind was, the way he deals with the public, or the way the band has been handled by the press, the publicity done, the kind of path that's been followed.
You think we're off our heads? You think we're mental? I think that's the only comparison. Really.
Okay, well, I obviously you don't agree with him, so I think that.
If he told us what he was talking about, we could agree or disagree.
I think it's a bit of a radical thing to say, like, you could line us up with any bands in the world because we all lead similar lifestyles. I mean, you could say we were similar to Nana Muscuri because she goes out and tours and makes records. It's like, unless you be specific about it, I don't think it's really possible. What areas he's talking about.
Okay, well, I think it's just, we're kind of on thin ice here, so we should move on. じゃあ、その比較はよくわからない。
よくわかんない。
これはどういうことだかはよくわからないから、発言できない。
じゃあ自分たちはそのディーボっていうのはちょっと間違いであるような気がするということ。自分たちはディーボなんて全然関係ねえんだということ。
だからその関連性はよくわからない。
フランキーというとね、その売れた原因としてすぐそのジャーナリストっていうのは ZTT レコードだとかポール・モーリーだとかね、トレバー・ホーンだとか、そういう裏方のねメンツの名前をボンボン出してきて、それによってどうなんですかっていう言い方をしてしまうと思うんだけども、そういうそのジャーナリズムのあなた方に対する音楽性を割と無視した、扱い方っていうのは腹が立っている面がありますか
？When talking about the success of your group, names such as ZTT are mentioned and stuff, and it seems that the press has done everything except note the musical abilities of the band. Has that been rather irritating?
It's irritating because we know that we were capable of doing it as well, but because we got where we were so fast, we couldn't prove anything because we had this guy who produced a lot of bands that were successful and then fell when he didn't produce them. And the only reason he got on our backs is because we hadn't proved anything really, to them anyway. I mean, if we went out and did it on our own, nobody could say anything to us anymore. But that's the only reason.
I think people are always a little suspected bands that become so popular kind of overnight, kind of when it's not just popular, but when it's into we have like a huge success like our own, And I think journalists think there's a bit of dirty work going on behind this, it's like, it's not what it's not all the eye sees, it's like there's a lot going on underneath. So they like to delve further, And also he was a bigger star than we were. Like Trevor, we were working with people who were named people, So they're obviously going to credit us before they credit us.
How long do you think you're going to have to wear this label, the stigma of being so-called protégés of ZTT, or protégés of Paul Morley, or protégés of Trevor Horn?
We never adhere to it. In any case, it's like it never phases us because
I think we made ZTT more than ZTT made us really. Because if we were being on that label, nobody would know who we were. So I think we made them more than they made us. But it's just because of the Trevor Horn thing that it's gone the other way in the press, really.
そうです時間はあんまないな、その最近のアメリカでビッグネームになったマイケル・ジャクソンとかマドンナとかプリンスっていったところはね、その徹底的なその自分たちがインタビューにあんまり答えずに報道規制を敷いて ひどくそう神経質になっているわけですよね。でパブリシティがあんまりないようにしてるんだけども、逆にそれがパブリシティの増大につながってて、インタビューやらないとか取材を受けないってことがね、そういう面があって、それでなおかつ人々がだからこそ見たがるという、聞きたがる見たがるという面があって、まあちょっと逆の現象になってて面白いと思うんですが、ボーイ・ジョージもそうだけども、あなた方も非常にそのインタビューに頻繁に応じることでね、応じてますけれども、出過ぎでないかというふうに考えたことはないでしょうか。
Some of the major figures such as Prince, Madonna, Michael Jackson have been successful in like avoiding a lot of media coverage. I mean, they don't agree to interviews very much, which has actually caused for more attraction, people's attention. He said, "Don't you guys think you're appearing maybe a little bit too much, doing too many interviews? Doesn't the secrecy help rather than hurt?"
I mean, you get bands that are like that, but one day they won't be that big, and they'll be crying to be interviewed by somebody.
You really think so?
They'll be told to piss off because they're too far.
You really think that's the case, though?
Yeah.
I think we've got about it in that more honest way. You know, people fans like to know what you're talking about. They like to read things about it.
I think people like that are just trying to be trendy and hip by not doing interviews.
Like sparking up in interviews.
Well, I don't know. They're just trying to create a myth, you know, which works for some people. Certainly works.
But everybody knows it's on a good thing anyway.
In his early days, when he had a lot to say, no one was interested. All the papers were really interested, you know. And he's only just gotten big in the last about as long as us, really. He'd never really had hit records until Purple Rain.
Have you ever thought about starting, this type of a secrecy policy, though? Just even to save time and energy.
Only so we wouldn't have to bloody do it. There's any reason to not to drag them from people.
I think it's good for the people that buy your records to know what you're about.
What did you do? Did you watch to make the little around? We like talking to people. We like doing interviews. You know, it's quite happening sometimes. It's quite good. You know, it's like it's all interesting. What did you do when you go to a town? Friends, you know, it's a hotel all the time. No one can look at them. No one can talk to them. You're not going to do any interviews. He was just writing on music. Obviously, that's what his band is. Dollar doesn't talk.
Hi, my name is Madonna.
じゃあフランキーのちょっと今後について聞きたいんですが、フランキーというのはデビュー以来ですね、セックスとか戦争、宗教、プレジャードームとかね、そういう比較的ショッキングな話題を扱うことによって割とメディアに対する操作が非常にうまかったという気がします。でこれからもそういうふうな新しいショッキングなネタを提供し続けようと思っているのか、それとも今度はバンドのアーティストパワーによってやっていこうというそういう方針があるのか、どちらになるんでしょう。
It seems that the band has kind of almost made a policy of
Join the parade, spat that ballet t-shirt.
What's that?
it seems the band has almost sort of made a policy of writing songs about rather sensational subjects, surprising type of lyrics, that type of thing. Is that something that's going to continue in the future?
Yeah, those sort of lyrics will continue, but it's not like we didn't go out and say we write a song about war. We write a song about war or whatever. It's just so, I mean, everybody who writes songs about that, it's just that we emphasise them more in the publicity we did and stuff like that.
Also, people had stopped sort of writing songs I don't know, music lost its balls for a while, you know, it got really safe and everyone started talking about Kiss Chameleons and Chameleon. It's like, and we just came along with being honest again, and just sort of brought it back, you know, the youth back into music again. It's a bit of cheekiness, you know.
But isn't there room for a little bit of both, for the soft side and...
Of course, there's room for everybody in the world, you know, it's just...
But we write soft songs as well. how they wrote stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just that we can write both.
For a while there was no bands after the Pistols, there was like no bands, so it just got really bored, there was no one surprised.
Can you shut
It
down the interview?
wasn't new and exciting anymore, you know. And we were lucky enough to like to be at the right place at the right time, you know, and people must have been ready for it.
じゃあ、あと2つね、クイズ。最後、これ最後これ最後だって。じゃあ一番最後クイズで終わりますから。これは本当クイズなんですけど、2 tribes のね、バージョン違いを全部言ってください。
He wants to, if he can have your indulgence for a second, he'd like to quiz you on, you can list all the versions of 2 tribes.
Annihilation.
I just no, that's not Hibakusha.
Wait.
Rufus the Bear's
No.
Martha.
Hold on.
I can't do it. It was a lie.
Annihilation.
You already did that first.
Annihilation.
Hibakusha, which is the last one, was 12 inch. And there's like about 9 million in between.
I can't do it.
Carnage.
Carnage wins.
It's like, what do you call it, isn't it?
Pass, give me the next one.
Nobby Styles.
Yeah, next one's sports. We get that right.
Can't really remember.
Yeah, well, like you mentioned a second
We
ago,
haven't
there's
even
7
got them all. I
versions.
don't think any one of us owns all the records.
I haven't got a version of Relax. I don't own Relax.
Well, you can turn on any radio anywhere.
Yeah, I give man a run.
Well, yeah, we'll give up.
昨日堀に聞いたら1つしか言えませんでした。
Holly was only able to name one yesterday, so at least you're
Shows
doing
you how much he's involved in the records then, doesn't it?
被爆者だけ。
Ah,
そっか。
I bet he could mention other tracks on Sting's new album now.
じゃあありがとうございました。Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.